Hey everybody, I'm Robert Donovan, and welcome to this episode of Tradecraft Solutions. I apologize for this episode being late. I've been a little bit sick, and I had a few other obligations that were very time-consuming to deal with, so I have had to do it a little later than I wanted. I'm trying to get one of these out every month, but didn't quite happen this time. So, in the continuing series on how I made the animation that I have titled The Arrival, because I'm a little bit pressed for time now, but I wanted to get something up on YouTube because I didn't want to let it languish too long. And I'm going to do a series on how I made the ships. And all these ships, all three of those ships were the same ship. They were just copies of this particular ship here, this one right there. I've actually, this ship, when it was used in that video and as it is used in this desktop background, it is still not done. If you go to the Brown CGI Channel, whose expertise far, far exceeds mine in doing this sort of thing, he did a video on his YouTube channel where he apologized to his viewers for not making a tutorial on how to do a capital ship because it took him months. I have to say, it has been a similar experience with me. I am nowhere near the expert that Dan Brown is, but I have to say that this ship design you see here kind of evolved over several iterations, and each one of those iterations took me a little while to do. So this ship you're seeing here, this version of it, took me about, the better part of 3 weeks to actually get it into the form you see here. Probably close on a month before I got the lights and everything else the way I wanted to do it. I had a much more elaborate scheme plan for that, where I was going to have actual windows, and that's going to come. But I wanted to get something that I could put into an animation or put into a picture like this. So this is what I came up with. And if you look closely, I'm not sure how well you can see it. If you look closely, you will see that I've done a little work on it since. We've got the beginnings of some weapons rails on the sides and the front forks here. And we've got inside there the little gravitic crane that's going to be used to pull stuff into this bay. There's a few more things I have planned for this, but I've labored on it since. So again, this thing kind of evolves. I've also started work on this ship's big brother right here. These ships are part of they're featured in a novel I'm writing, and the corporation that builds and owns the fleet of these ships specializes in terraforming for colonization. This is the defense ship. It's the cruiser. It's meant to shoot things out of the sky, and it can be used for exploration, but it's basically goes out and finds the planets that are suitable for terraforming and colonization. This one is the terraforming ship, as I have envisioned it. I've tried to keep the same look. I believe the artsy term for that is the same aesthetic. The same basic hull concept, the same basic design idea. It's just bigger or longer. The engines are a little different. The bridge is basically just jutting forward a little bit here. It's jutting forward a lot here, but it's basically in the same place. The idea is that these ships are produced in a factory, kind of like the Koreans do it. They have a few basic hull designs. They do some modifications, but you've basically got modules that you bolt together. And you can produce these on an assembly line very quickly and inexpensively, which makes them useful, but they're not very creative in their design aspect because they all look very much alike. What we're going to do in this tutorial is I'm going to do kind of a walkthrough of how I do one of these. And again, this here I just kind of banged out. It's taken me about a week to kind of get this idea clear in my mind that I wanted to do with this particular ship. What I'm going to do today is just concentrate on the front fork sections here. Notice the styles are a little bit different. This one has the fighter bays pointing out the side. This one has the fighter bays coming out these slanted bays here towards the front, and it has two really large fighter bays, or actually I didn't put those in. There's going to be two really big fighter bays here and here that are on the back part of this, and I haven't put those in yet. So these things do kind of take a little time to kind of figure out what I want to do. I'm not by any means a great modeler or hard surface modeler or I don't call myself a blender artist. I call myself a blender enthusiast. I have no idea if I'm doing any of this right, so don't take any of what I tell you to do as gospel truth and how to do this. I'm sure there's a million ways you could probably do all of this stuff, and a lot of them are better than what I'm showing you. Here's how I do it. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to minimize this because I'm going to be using this kind of as a reference. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do for this video a walkthrough of how I do that front fork section. So do Shift-A, Mesh, Cube, and we're in object mode now. And, let me start my screencast keys. There we go. So now I want to scale this thing in the x-axis. So hit S to scale, hit X, and then I'm going to do that by a factor of 3, and then I'm going to hit the Enter key to lock that in. And by the way, the reason my interface may look different from yours is that I'm not using the default theme. I'm using a theme called Science Lab, which is one of the default themes in Blender. I just happen to like the look of it better. I also have the 3D View navigation icon, or navigation add-on activated, which gives me this navigation tab. I also have the emulate numpad keys added because my laptop doesn't have a set of dedicated numpad keys. If you want to do this and don't know how, you click File, you go to User Preferences, and the navigation icon is this one here, very top, 3D View, 3D Navigation. Make sure that checkbox is ticked, and that will give you the navigation tab in the tool shelf. And then under Input, now that's under Add-ons for the 3D Navigation. Under Input, if you click this checkbox here to emulate the numpad, that will make the number keys across the top of your keyboard act like numpad keys when they need to be. Blender can figure out when you're using one and not the other. That's how you do that. All right, moving right along, we have scaled this thing in object mode, and I'm now going to hit the Tab key to go to edit mode, hit Control-R because I need to add a little geometry to this thing to do something with it. And I want to put 2 loop cuts right there like that, so I just push my mouse wheel forward 1 notch, and I'm going to left click once to select that, and left click again without moving the mouse to lock that in, and that gives me that. I want to create 1 more loop cut right down the middle there, so Control R, and we'll go there, and then double click to lock that in. And now I have this down here is the limit selection to visible. I want to turn that off for a bit. And I'm going to hit B to box select. Actually, before I do that, escape out of that, hit A to deselect. Then hit B to box select, sorry. And I want to select these vertices just like that. Notice that selects all the vertices, and you can see behind, you can see through the thing. They call this X-ray mode. All right, so that, hit X, and then the V key to delete those vertices, and now go over to the modifiers button, which is the wrench here. Click Add Modifier and click Mirror. And I like to put the Edit Cage Modifier Result on there so that you can see what you're doing on both sides. All right, so now let's go from, we're in Vertex Select mode, let's go to Face Select mode. You can do that by clicking these buttons down here, Vertex, Edges, Faces, like that. Or you can go Control-Tab, select one of these from the sub-menu, or just hit the indicated letter. So I'm going to go to Face Select mode, which is where I want to be. I'm going to go ahead and select this face here. Notice that when you have the Edit Cage modifier turned on, if I turn this off, it doesn't do anything on that side. If I turn this here, it does, and I can select and deselect things from that other side, which is useful sometimes on complex models where you can't always get at the thing on one side, but you can get at it on the other. All right, numpad 1 to go back to front view, and we're going to scale these faces once they're while selected. We're going to scale them in the z-axis to 0.4. So hit S to scale, hit Z to constrain to the z-axis, and then 0.4, and then left-click to lock that in. Once you've done that, whoops, I have the, let's turn this limit selection to visible off, and then select this front face here, hit numpad 7, and then I want to hit E to extrude, hit Y to constrain it to the y-axis, and then do -3, and then hit Enter. Okay, and then I want to go back to front view, so hit numpad 1, and then I want to scale these faces down themselves, so we're going to go hit S, I want to only scale them in the X and the Z axes, but not the Y. So I'm going to do Shift Y. That tells Blender scale and everything but the thing I press after Shift. And then I'm going to scale this at 0.5, like that. And you can just press that, and then left click to lock that in. Now go to numpad 7 to go back to top view. Let's zoom in, pull this up a little bit so we can see exactly what we're doing. Like that. And now I'm going to turn on snapping. Shortcut key there. The shortcut key is Shift Tab, so let's do Shift Tab. And you'll see the magnet goes red. And now when we grab these handles here, it snaps to the grid division, which is what we want, like that. So now I have that part in there. And let's go ahead and do Shift Tab to turn that back off because it doesn't really help me at this point. And I want to expand these this edge out a bit. So let's go here to the back, and I want to do edge select mode, whichever way you want. I just did the Control Tab there. Hit A to deselect, right click to select that edge, numpad 7 to go to the top, and I want to go out. Snapping might actually help on this. Let's turn it back on. There we go. Take that out about 5 small grid divisions there, and I think Shift Tab will turn snapping back off there. Sorry, I can't seem to get that word to form in me mouth. All right, so now what we want to do is get the diamond shape going. So we're still in edge select mode. Let's select that edge, and let's select that edge right there. And let's do numpad 1. And I think we're going to turn snapping back on for this. I guess I do need it. Okay, let's scale this in the Z axis like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, why have I done that? It clearly doesn't look that way in any of the videos or the picture because I haven't finished widening this thing yet. And the way I'm going to widen it is I'm going to go... Let's see here. We're going to get the right. Once we get the basic shape here, this thing is about 28 meters across. And by the way, let's go to the scene properties here and select metric as our units. This thing is about 28 meters across on the back, the wide part. Yeah, right now we would appear to be only about 7 meters across, and that's just not kosher. So what I'm going to do then is we're going to go to face mode, and I'm going to select, hit C, which is paint select. I'm going to select all of these faces right here. We'll right click to lock that in. You left click to select with the C button or the paint select tool. Hold Shift down, select that back face there, just so it doesn't get left behind. I don't think it will, but there you go. Now, let's go numpad 1, and I'm going to go ahead and we'll take this out 2, 3, 4, 5, a little more, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that 10? That's 10. All right, let's go 11, 12, like that. There we go. That's about what we're trying to do there. And now we want to make this thing, it's about 40 meters long and about 10 meters high. So let's Control 1. And so we're going to need to, I'm going to scale this thing in, because the mirror modifier, the way it works, the mirror modifier doesn't recognize any of this. Looks like it's there on the other side, but the Blender only actually recognizes as real vertices the part that's the real object, not the reflection. So it doesn't scale the same way in edit mode. So I'm going to tab out of edit mode. Let's go to add 1. I'm going to tab out of edit mode, go into object mode, and this thing needs to be, let's see how many meters across this thing, or meters high this thing is right now. It appears But I'm only about 3 meters high, and I need to be about 10 meters high. Okay, so let's do scale Z 3.3. Yes, I know that looks ridiculous, but we are also aware that it is only about, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 10 meters across. It's supposed to be 28 meters across along the back, so let's do scale X 2.8, like so, which gets us back where we want to be front-wise. However, it's got to be longer, so let's do a numpad 3, and let's take go back to edit mode here, and let's grab this front face here, go to numpad 3, and we want this thing to be 20 meters long, so this is now, so if we go, okay, that's 10 meters long, that's 20 meters long. Now let's grab these faces here, go to numpad 3, and let's unselect these faces here so that the median point is where we want it. And now we are 2 meters long this way, so we need to go another 18 meters here, so that's going to be 10 right there, and 20 right there. So now this thing's starting to look a little bit more like what we've come to expect in those videos that I put out, or at least what I've come to expect. However, the front and back of this big bit here are still the same size, and that needs to be scaled down just a bit. So I'm going to then, let's go use the C, select that, grab that, right click to lock that in, and then on the bottom here, Shift C, C, or Shift right click, and unselect those two in the back there. All right, now we need to do here, let's grab these guys here. Okay, so now what it looks like we need to do here is now 40 meters long. Yeah, although that actually, okay, we don't need these faces here selected for this bit here because it's wide enough. What we need to select is this here. Let's go to 3, and we only need this thing to go down about 1 meter in the front here. So let's do, let's see here, how do I want to do this? We want to scale this thing in. I think I'm just going to, let's Control Z, and we'll turn off snapping because that's not helping. And then we will scale Shift Y so that it doesn't scale in the Y. And then bring this in like that. And see what we did to ourselves here. Oops, I forgot to turn on clipping. So let's go and Control Z that, back to our modifiers, and turn on clipping. All right, one more time here, people. All right, let's try this again. Scale, Shift, Y. There. And now I want just go to edge select mode, and I'm going to grab that edge, and I'm going to pull it up, go to numpad 3 again so I can see how much. I'm going to pull that up another, say, half a grid unit there. And maybe one more. There we go, like so. Good enough. All right, and that gives us the better pitch for the roof on, I call that top, when I refer to the barn and the basement on these ships, that's the barn, that's the basement. There we are. Okay, so that takes care of the pitch for the roof on the barn here. Let's make the barn itself. So to Control Tab F, I'm going to grab these faces here, numpad 1, and I'm going to hit E to extrude. Now by default, this thing's going to try and extrude along the normals. I don't want that. I want it to extrude along the global Z. So we're going to hit Z again to take that away. We're going to hit Z again. And by the way, if you hit Z and it's not there, you are doing a freehand extrude. And now we're just going to constrain it. And I want this to go up just a grid unit and a half, basically, like that. And then I want this thing to go up again. So let's hit extrude ZZ. Take this up just a hair past that the second half, that next grid unit there. All right, so that takes care of the middle part of the roof there. So let's grab that face here. Do numpad 1 again, and let's extrude in the X. About 1 grid unit, maybe a little more is fine. And I'm going to zoom in a little so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just eyeballing this. Hold the Shift key down for this bit here. It's a little easier. And what I'm looking at is you see the stair steps getting smaller and smaller as I angle this thing down. When they look like they're close, I stop. When they look like when these stair steps look really close to these stair steps, I essentially stop moving it down. So there's that. And is this thing still looking like it's a little straight? Yes, it is. All right, so let's do edge select mode and grab this edge. I think because of the scaling, this is happening. There we go. Hold on a minute here. We got to just grab the Z, hold the Shift key down. Actually, let's Control Z that. Try it again. Hold the Shift key down. There. Okay, very good. And because of the pitch of this roof, it's going to look a little weird no matter how we do this, but I'm going to leave it like that because I want it more or less even. All right, so the extension to the front is determined by how long this extension for this front bay is here. So let's go back to face select mode here, and I'm going to hit grab those faces. Make sure I don't have anything else selected here. I do not. Okay, good. And actually the easy way to do that is hit the A key again, and then hit the A key again. That makes sure nothing is selected. All right, now grab these faces and go ahead and hit XF. And then hit go to edge select mode, like that, and then Shift Alt right click. And then I'm going to go numpad 1 here. All right, then we're going to go extrude scale 0.8. Okay, and that a little more. That's good enough. All right, so we do 0.8, and now we are going to go to numpad 3, and we're going to turn back off limit selection to visible. And now I'm going to go extrude Y and take this out. About 1.5 grid units there should be good. And I'm going back to Control numpad 1, or to numpad 1 rather. And now I'm going to go extrude scale 0.9. Go back to 3. And then I'm going to go extrude Y, pull this thing back, and I usually don't go that far back. That's one of the reasons I haven't finished the interior work. That's one of the reasons you didn't see these. I haven't finished the interior work on these hangars. So they look like basically just empty boxes. So I'm going to just pull that back there. That's why I never showed that angle of the ship when I did the video. So with that done, that pretty much finishes our bays for the most part. So let's just hit F to face that off in the back, hit A to deselect. Now we want to do we want to keep this floor level. So let's grab this edge. Let's actually turn limit selection to visible back on. Go to Control numpad 1. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to Go to face select mode. I'm going to go here and go X faces to get rid of that face. And I'm going to select that face back there, go X faces to get rid of that face so I can see the grid lines on the other side. All right, now let's go to edge select mode. Take this, and now I want this to come up like so. Holding the shift key down here, I want this absolutely as straight as I can get it. There we go. All right, that levels the floor. And now for the ramp in the front, there's actually a little ramp in the front. I did mostly for visual interest. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be necessary, but there you go. So let's do a Control R and left click to select, and let's move this thing forward like that. Like so. How close was that? Good enough. And let's do another Control R. Select that, pull it in. And now we want to grab a vertex. And this one to be precise. Let's go back to Control Numpad 1. And now I want to do everything I can to mimic what this thing originally looked like. These as close to the way they were as I can do it by eyeballing it. I'm sure there's a way to do that exactly, but I don't care. So there we go. That's the little ramp. Not sure why that would be there, but I think it looks kind of cool. Kind of gives a suggestion that things might be launching out of there pretty fast, or maybe you have to drag something up because it's stuck or it can't get in there under its own power. I don't know. There it is. So here you have the fighter bay. Let's go back here and select this loop of vertices here and hit face to face them all. Whoops, Control Z. Let's deselect this vertex first though. And now let's face that off. Okay, very good. Deselect that. Now we have that figured out. Let's turn the limit selection to visible off. Numpad 3. Select, let's go to face select mode, make this easier. Select that face and that face. Numpad 3. And we will extrude along the Y again. Go just a little bit past the end of this thing. And then I'm going to grab the Z and go down like so. There we go. So that's our, there we got the barn on the front forks. And so that's our front fork, our salvage module, I'm calling that, because basically the idea is that you, this is like the repair bay. This is where we pull ships in that can't be put under their own power. On the ship that you see, the latest version of this, I have a little crane mechanism here that's been added to this. So I'll show you how I add that. Select this face here, and it's not that hard. I just do W and subdivide, and then I select this face here, shift, right click, select this face there, and then hit face to combine those into one face, and do the same thing down here. Like that. We now have the basis for, well, actually, do I? Maybe. Hang on a second here. What did I do here? Did I do a loop cut on this too? No, I didn't do a loop cut because I don't think I want a loop cut going through. Let's see, did I do that? No, it won't let me do a loop cut now that I've combined those faces. And the reason that it won't let me do that, if I go to vertex select mode, is that it hasn't gotten rid of those vertices yet. So let's get rid of those. Okay, go X and then dissolve vertices like that. so now let's go back to face mode here. And there we go, there we are. Let's see what we can do with the Control R now. Yes, it's letting me get away with that. Let's go ahead and do that. Control R. Okay, so now let's go and play with this a little bit. We have our, here we might want to put a loop cut in. Might be useful to put a loop cut in here. So let's do Control R. Yep. Move that back a little bit there. Like so. Okay. And we need one more. Okay, so now what we want to do, go to face select mode. I'm going to select that face and that face. And I'm going to select that face and that face. And I'm going to extrude those things along the X axis. So let's go extrude X. Just a tiny, whoops, the other way, just a tiny bit, like so. You can see they're there. You know that there's something going on now. Let's go to edge select mode. Select that edge, and make a face between them. So now we don't have anything in the middle there, like that. All right, that'll I can deal with that. Okay, so now let's take this. Let's go ahead and extrude this. Hit enter, and then grab this thing like this. Like that. Go to face select mode. Let's take this and this and extrude scale Z. Do that. And then then we'll go and do Control R. Put a loop cut there, move it up just till it's over this thing here. Do the same thing down here. All right. And then once again, we got to go into face select mode and wireframe mode. And once again, we'll have to try and hit. This is where I'm going to screw this up. I can just feel it. Let's see, is that the one? Yes, that is the one. Holy mackerel, I did it twice. All right, let's hit Z to go back into this. And now let's extrude again. Hit enter, and then grab this thing. I'm going to say that that's some kind of a magnetic rail or a maglev rail. And let's also, oh, that's the, all right, hang on, let's do Control Z. Okay, I have got that one selected. Let's Z back into wireframe mode, because I forgot the last time I got to do the bottom one too. I'll hold the shift key down. Did I get both of them? Yes, I did. Lovely, lovely. Okay, now let's extrude on the X. Oops, let's escape out of that. And just pull them off like that. There. So now you've got kind of this little magnetic or maglev crane or gravitic crane, whatever you want. And you can put other like emitters or stuff like that on the surface. But, just to give the thing some surface detail. But that's how that works. And we probably ought to have something in here that kind of prevents this thing from going off the end there. So some kind of a stop of some sort. So let's see here. So let's go ahead. I'm tempted to try to use the knife tool for this, but I think that will probably just cause more trouble than it's worth. But what the heck, I kind of like trouble. Let's go to edge select mode for this thing. And are we on the, yeah, we're on the real object. We got to be in the real object to use the knife tool. So let's deselect everything, hit K to use the knife tool. And all I want to do here is click there, click there, click there, hit the enter key. Yes, I did it. Yay. Okay, so now let's deselect that for a moment. And now let's do Shift Control Z to reselect that, or does that let me do that? No, it does not. Okay, let's click this, Shift, right click that, and then let's scale Y0, just so those are straight. And then I want to go to face select mode, and we want to click that, right click that. Let's go to numpad 1. And I want to have something that prevents this thing from going off the edge, so let's extrude in the X, escape out of that, and we'll just grab this thing and do this. There. And all that thing is there to do is prevent that thing from going off the edge. From shooting right out of there. There we go. Although I guess if you absolutely had to, you could, really ramp up the fields and just fire that sucker at somebody. But there you go. So there is the magnetic crane, the basics of it, and you can add more detail if you like. But that is how I did the front fork module, the salvage module on the front part of the Altor's, and that's basically all there is to it. Let's go to numpad 1. How high is this thing here? That's about right. It's good enough. It's on a slightly larger ship. We'll live with that. So there we go, and that is the front fork section of the Altor's. We will be adding the rest of the ship to that in future videos, and additional guns and surface detail as we go. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful, and more to come soon, hopefully not with quite so long a delay in between. May the balance of your day, as always, be awesome.